we were showing the limited case studies we had, and the biggest thing we were getting was like a cocked eyebrow of like plus 180% retention. Like, I call bullshit, pardon my French. And we were like, well, no, like, here's the actual data.
It's 4 a.m. and we're rolling the dice. Matei drops knowledge made of gold and ice. Felix with ads making those coins rise. Jack up designs, worlds chasing the sky. We're the 2.5 gamers, the midnight crew. Talking UA adverts and game design too. Matei, Felix, Shaka bringing the insight. We're rocking those vibes till the early daylight. Matei, UA, master eyes on the prize. Tracking data through the cyberspace skies. Felix stacks dollars like a wizard in disguise. Jacob's crafted realms lift us to the highs. 2.5 gamers talking smack. Slow hockey stick, got your back. Ads are beautiful, they light the way. Click it fast, don't delay.
Hello everybody, welcome to our special episode. Is it super special or special?
Very special.
It's very
super
special. Okay. Yeah, we started doing this because today we have an actual interview about the state of games, and we're gonna go through the player psychology, behavioral changes, and all of the different things. And we have Ben from ZBD on the recording. So welcome, Ben. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Nice to be here. Thank you, Matei and Felix. Yes, I'm Ben. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at ZBD. I'll try and give my background as swiftly as I can. So I spent I started my career in video games development a very, very long time ago. So when I was about 16, I began in QA back when I think Nintendo Wii was the main console in the market at that point in time.
Nice.
My claim to fame is I was a producer when we ported Silent Hill 2 to the Nintendo Wii. I was working for a studio called Climax down in Portsmouth here in the UK. Once I got sort of started out in production, I really enjoyed it, but I'll be very nakedly transparent and say I was quite materialistic as a young man in my 20s. And so I jumped into investment banking, boo hiss. And I worked on mergers and acquisitions and capital raising for the games industry. So I worked when SoftBank bought Supercell way back when. I worked on that deal. And then the sort of last thing I was involved in before jumping into venture capital was Epic Games, their fundraise when Sony came in. That was, I think, just off the back of Fortnite's success. So I moved into venture capital. I was basically more and more drawn to like the entrepreneur and still within gaming. That was kind of where I found myself in my happy place. And I joined the team at Lakestar. I led investing for them, made 8 or 9 investments in games. One of them was ZBD. And I met the ZBD team at a very, very early stage in the business. I think it was like 3 or 4 months old. But Simon, the CEO, came to me and he said, I think gaming has a payments problem and I want to build like a full stack solution for gaming payments. And I want to do it as a regulated provider. I had been privy to a lot of this thinking in working with Epic as a banker. And I was like, yeah, you're onto something. So I ended up backing the business basically with a blind take my money check. And they did their first demo where they kind of modded Counter-Strike and they made it so that you could shoot people and coins dropped out of their body. And then when you pick them up, you actually got paid. And I was like, holy hell, this is like really, really, really engaging. At that point, they were raising their Series A, and I decided to join the business and help them commercialize. I could kind of see that you had a team full of really solid engineers, and the kind of commercial piece of it was where they needed to build credibility in the games industry. So fast forward to today, and we kind of concentrated on mobile and payouts as the experience, which is, rewards and loyalty. And I've been in the business 5 or 6 years now. I've got more gray hair than I anticipated.
You basically dated yourself, and I mean, of course, like we're not getting any younger though, right? So I can understand. Before we go into the actual podcast, like, can you talk a little bit more about like what is ZBD trying to like solve? And I know like this just a little bit introduction about like the whole company.
The company itself is a fully regulated payment services provider. And in terms of the games industry, that's a one of one. We're the only one like that. So if you look at other payment providers, they tend to concentrate on like web shops. You probably heard the term merchant of record being slung around. Yeah, I mean, that's all very nice, but funnily enough, they can't actually touch money, whereas we can touch money. We can move money on behalf of games developers and on behalf of players. So when we got started, obviously Bitcoin's got a lot of hair on it. It's got the reputation it's got, and there's nothing we can do about that. And the FTX Ponzi scheme blew up and crashed.
It didn't help that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that made everyone very unhappy. But and to be honest, they deserved it. He was a criminal. But what that did for us as a business, we had to actually you've got to pivot and survive. So what we had the capabilities to do was Bitcoin payouts. So while we did that, while we were building up the rest of the credibility in the banking industry, we focused on paying users Bitcoin for playing games. And actually, to our surprise, and actually to our customers' surprise, there was a market there. And we've managed to scale it into a multi-million dollar, I wish it was billions, multi-million dollar industry. And we continue to kind of pick up customers in that segment. I guess that's where we're going to focus. But all I'll tease just for your listeners is that we're a lot more than a rewards company. And over the course of this year, now that the dust has settled on the crypto industry being hated by everyone, we're able to launch a lot more products, and those are going to be coming to market this year.
The industry is kind of changing, and you said you're getting more products into the market in 2026. Are you trying to solve any type of challenges with these products, or like what are the top challenges you are seeing or hearing from the industry and in general? Because we see a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
where to start?
I think it's an open secret that the games industry's faced some pretty strong headwinds like last 18 months. And I'm not a pessimist by nature, but I think we've got a little bit more pain ahead of us just yet. I see there being some really fundamental ground up challenges around distribution that need to be fixed. And we're not here to solve distribution. We're more monetization focused, but I do.
That's my job. Distribution is my job.
Excellent. So yeah, that responsibility can sit with you on behalf of the entire games industry.
It's fine. I'm also very, very optimistic. I wasn't really that much optimistic about 2025, but now I see it's kind of changing in a better direction already.
Yeah. Well, the industry still grew, albeit nominally, right, despite these headwinds. But so you've got that challenge. But to answer your question directly, you said, what problem are you solving? And that's the right question to say. We ask ourselves the same thing. If you're not solving a problem for the customer, you're not actually delivering anything to the market. So there was the early stage stuff about the business where what we observed is the games industry has a payment problem. That being that the industry makes entertainment products. Those products monetize through payments and admon. But the ownership or ability to control the relationship with the player financially is non-existent. It's always through third parties. It's always through different means of engaging. And yet UGC is just to pull one trend, for example, is a very, very growing trend. And as with UGC and say YouTube, people who create content for your platform actually now expect to be paid. We've got a cost of living crisis. Everyone is skimmed. People want to be paid for their effort and their time. And so one of the main things we can actually solve is UGC payments to users, payments between players. I can see.
Wait, Ben. So now, are you talking about UGC as a creators on YouTube, or UGC as a UAFN or Roblox kind of
the latter? UGC? Yeah. So thinking within games. Yeah, bringing it back.
Perfect.
To games.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's something I'm sort of teasing a product that's going to be launched this year, but. We are capable of doing that. We're capable of enabling games developers to have true financial relationship with their players. And this is speaking very honestly, this is what motivates me. I do come from the games industry, albeit with a roundabout banking route in the middle.
Yeah.
And I care about the games industry because both my parents also worked in gaming. The growth of the games industry is something it's an industry to be celebrated. And what I see is an industry that is disempowered from true monetization because it has always depended on platforms. When it's distributing games, you've got to go through consoles and PCs. So you're beholden to the hardware manufacturers. When you're on mobile, you're beholden to Apple and Google. These things are they're unavoidable, bluntly. So what can you control? Well, one of the big things that you can control that I feel the industry is not aware of is the financial relationship with the player. The industry's just never had a truly vertically integrated payment provider that meets the game developer where they are in the game engine and next to the player and empowers the player to actually interact with the game, where it isn't just take your money, it can also be receive money and move money. We speak about the games have a money life cycle. And that money life cycle is really under discussed in the industry. There is money in, and then there is moving money through the system, and then there is money out. Now, not all games involve all three pieces, but increasingly the forever games and the major IP actually truly does. It truly does look at, you subscribe to your battle pass, you create content, and you monetize that content. And that's a full money life cycle in a game. So that's kind of how we feel. That's the solution we're providing, like full money life cycle management within your gaming environment. But there are different customer profiles for that. Like we're going to talk a lot about mobile. Mobile doesn't necessarily have that full life cycle, although we have introduced the idea of payouts to players, and we've made it seamless so that you can actually form a different engagement relationship with your player.
So it sounds really interesting, but it also sounds like we or mobile developers don't own the payment relationship by design, right? Google and Apple put a stop to that, right? So they must have a very strong opinion about this.
They do, which is why I'm careful to say there's different customer profiles. When I say that there's a full money lifecycle management, I'm probably talking about HD exclusively. When we think about mobile, what's very nice from our perspective is there's a lot of people competing for pay-ins and web shops, but that is actually really hitting the Apple wall and the Google wall right where it hurts. And you're contingent on a lot of things going right, and they are going right. I do believe the ecosystem is going to open up and the walls are coming down. That's a fantastic thing. But there's really never been any true restrictions on paying out. The platforms have no issue with players being given rewards, and the only thing they ask if you're actually making it a monetary reward is, are you licensed to do that? And we are. So there we're able to, and we've got actually quite a lot of documentation to help developers about like, what are the app store policies on this? Do they change? When they change, what is the response? And we make sure that developers understand, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. To give you a point, like one of the more where things can meet tension with the Apple and Googles of this world is they don't like something called cash for tasks, and this comes from like jump through this hoop for $1, and so they just don't like that. But we don't do cash for tasks. We are an engagement platform where we embed rewards into the gameplay, and they don't necessarily need to be explicitly linked to do this action for money. It can be more like as you play and as you engage with the game, you find yourself at points in time being rewarded, and that reward being financial, it being money. But it's not necessarily a request of the player to do things.
It's not a request, but isn't it like almost the same? It's just like in a different color.
It sounds like do it for $1, jump through this hoop, but we won't tell you where the hoop is.
Just play and you will see the hoop is right there. You just need to go into that direction, and then maybe you will. Which is clever.
No, it's. I'm not going to shy away from it, but I think I'll tell you what my perspective is here. Like, we immediately went into a game design challenge, and that is a game design challenge. Like, I hope you agree with me there. We're not games designers. We provide the platform, the tools, the means to do it, and we provide all the kind of framework and guidance according to the app stores about where your no-go areas are. But if we're playing, like, I think the game we're most known for is our partner FUM, who we're like very, very close to. They made a game called Bitcoin Miner, and we partnered up, and we actually
shout out to Paul and the rest of the team. We love you guys. You are doing a great job, and I know their partnership with you guys are phenomenal. Like, seriously, like, it's working really well.
Yeah, we're super proud of it. We have a saying in the company, which is Paul West knows best, and that's because he just tends to. But yeah, the way they did a really cool thing, for example, where they just dropped, and I say dropped metaphorically, like there's Bitcoin all around the actual game that you can discover. So say you go, I don't know, you're exploring like the achievements, and there's just like a little coin there, and you tap it, and that's money. You earned it. There's no task there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right?
it's Easter eggs within the games that you implement somewhere, and it's like, oh, wait a second, what is this? If you are playing and paying attention properly, then you can reward yourself.
Exactly. And it really is an engagement driver. And we started out with a hypothesis that if you shared your unit economics with the player, they would play more. And it was kind of an evolution of what has already happened in rewarded UA, but actually embedding it into the gameplay. And Paul we're so eternally grateful for him, because he said, sounds like it makes sense, let's give it a go. And it actually worked like crazy. But we've subsequently also proven it with almost every customer we've worked with. I mean, most recently we partnered up with Tap Nation, and we lifted their ARPDAU, I think it was 44%. And it's counterintuitive, because when we first speak to developers and you say, hey, take a share of your ad revenue and give it to the player, and we tell you LTV goes up. They go, like, how? I'm literally giving my money to the player. Well, the difference is that they play a game, they discover that it gives them money, and not only does it give them money, it gives them money instantaneously. So you really see, it's not like that, oh, is this a scam where I've got to play it for 5 years and then I might get $1. It's like, no, you get 2 to 3 cents a day, and we're not in the business of making people rich, nor do we advertise as such. It's just like a small reward. Why, I think one of our partners put it really well. They did solitaire with Bitcoin, and they said, you've got 120 free-to-play solitaire games out on the App Store. Why wouldn't you play the free one that pays you? And that's sort of the context through which we look at it. And so then you get these players, and you end up taking hybrid casual games that have 14-day life cycles for the players, and suddenly they're at 180-day life cycles because people just keep playing. They make it like a daily habit, like check in, get my 5 to 10 cents, and then look, after a month I've got a few dollars. Great, and it's free for the user.
How it feels like bots would be a really big issue here, right? Because when you drop something out, you're telling me I can get 1,000 bots.
So again, sort of naive startup time about 3 years ago, we were like, isn't this fantastic? And everyone's so altruistic. And then we were like, this engagement looks crazy. Okay.
Wait a second.
Something we're careful about putting public information about what we do for anti-bot for obvious reasons. But the SDK now contains some really, really significant and sophisticated, basically anti-fraud and anti-bot protection. We're very comfortable now and confident that we've got that down to a single-digit percentage point level where it's negligible for any business working with you. So there's a lot of work that's gone into that over the last 2 years, and we're pretty pleased. Some of it we're considering patenting because we've got it into some really good places.
You mentioned when you kind of earn the ad revenue and then you're giving it back to players and it actually works better. Can you unpack that a little bit, like from the strategic point of view for the gaming studios, if they want to jump on this? Why should they? Why on paper it makes sense.
How and why?
How and why?
I guess it comes back to some of the challenge. We started the conversation with challenges facing the industry, and something that I very, very closely lived through because I invested in a couple of startups that were in the kind of hyper casual and hybrid casual market is I watched the kind of, for want of a better word, the implosion over there, right? As CPIs inflated and everything just kind of, it was like, oh, these businesses aren't economical anymore. And I was there kind of, with a metaphorical chalkboard and a conspiracy theorist hat on, how do we solve this? What can we do to fix it? And the lever we instinctively reached to was, well, you've got to grow the LTV of the player. And we thought well, how do you grow LTV? And that was where we landed on, well, these games are so, for want of a better word, they're disposable, right? We've talked about, the games industry talks about churn and burn dynamics So there was a lot of that going on, I think, if we're just transparent about that sort of end of the market. And we thought, well, what if it isn't churn and burn? What if it is actually you have a hybrid casual or hyper casual game and you have solid retention? You're not going to build live ops because the monetization profile of the players doesn't it doesn't make sense. You're not going to go for IAP. Well, I guess hybrid casual has kind of changed that a little bit. But back, the thinking 3-4 years ago was along these lines. So we thought, well, there is a whole rewarded market, and that kind of centers around, you've got a narrow user base and they're kind of jumping from rewards app to rewards app. But what if you took it out of the rewards app and you embedded the rewards in the game, and then actually you didn't need to get a different app to claim these rewards? What if you could just send it to your Revolut and actually start to just have a relationship with the game that it just pays you? And that was the genesis of the thinking. And it did start out with a requirement for people to get the ZBD app, and that comes from our Bitcoin DNA, where no one's got a Bitcoin wallet. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. It was too complicated.
Exactly. So we had to basically make a Fisher Price Bitcoin wallet that a normal person could understand. And then we gave them the Bitcoin. And then we also, as quickly as we gave them the Bitcoin, we gave them the means to sell it, because we're not in the business of going hold on to this until you're an old man. And and also you've only made 2 cents. So what's the point? Here's your Bitcoin, and now here's gift cards, and here's send to your bank account. Where we've got to now is we don't even need the app. So we can actually, the player can withdraw directly from the game to their own financial application, their own neobank, whatever they're already using. And these have already got distribution. They've already got massive networks. And that is a different kind of relationship with the player. You're not really talking about the misplays, the Benjamins, the cash kicks of this world anymore. You're just talking about embedded rewards and loyalty within a gameplay experience, and that as a monetization tool. So then you sort of get into the unit economics of it. And I know it sounds like simplistic, but what I outlined in terms of take 10
Man, like it is anything but simple. Seriously.
Okay, yeah. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Easy to say, hard to master. So like you can look at the sort of conversation. If I'm sort of talking from a sales perspective, how we work with developers, and I'm trying to do this without pitching at the same time, so it's like a practical conversation. We'll open the conversation with something along the lines of like, take a percentage of your ad revenue, share it to the player, boost LTV. What I kind of explained just a moment earlier.
Yeah.
What it really gets into then, if the developer is interested, is like, well, here's like the nuts and bolts of it. So we actually come on in a pretty collaborative way. We start, practically speaking, we get in Slack together because that's the way the world works. But what we're really doing is we're looking at what is your baseline? Where are your users? Because we're US and European centric in terms of where we focus. We try to focus on higher value markets, particularly when there's like a heavy admon component. And then we'll say, okay, you've got this behavior so far. Where's your retention drop off? Let's think about how the rewards are introduced, because now they are part of the game. It isn't a simple offer wall, download the game, reach level 50, get some money. It's actually like you've got to take the player on a journey. So you look at like repeatable frameworks for introducing rewards, so it's scalable. And you look at a very key onboarding message to introduce the mechanic. Our most successful partners, and where we've published these case studies, all of them engaged with us on like a first-time user experience testing thing. So we would work on like, try saying this game pays you Bitcoin, like be as blunt as possible, or try weaving it into the narrative of the game, which is actually what Tap Nation did. So they said, hey, you're running a bank. This bank screws its customers by printing money and hoarding Bitcoin. And so it made it part of the game. When that is done, in our experience, that drives the best results, because it is something that requires the player to sort of say, oh, I get it, right? Like it does need an aha moment, but how quickly can we get to that aha moment, that light bulb? And usually it is, I think even Paul talks about this, introduce the mechanic quickly and then reward very quickly, but in a very nominal amount. So like, here is how it works. Oh, and look, there's some money over there. Why don't you just tap it and say, okay, now you've got it. Here's how you withdraw. As soon as the player does withdraw the money and actually sees that it lands in their account, that they truly did get paid by this game and it's not some kind of too good to be
it's
true.
not a scam.
Yeah, exactly. Then the loyalty from that player just skyrockets. And we've seen that now very, very consistently. I mean, I remember 2 years ago at Pocket Gamer, given that that's coming up, we were showing the limited case studies we had, and the biggest thing we were getting was like a cocked eyebrow of like plus 180% retention. Like, I call bullshit, pardon my French.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, no, like here's the actual data. Like here it really is. But we did get a lot of skepticism. I mean, I fully embrace that we are swimming in a controversial area of the market. It's Bitcoin.
We love controversy. Come on,
exactly. But we're seeing it works.
Ben,
that's what I would say.
It's a great idea, but I need to ask, how do you deal with the arbitration issue, right? Networks, if you're giving ad revenue up, they usually pay out on net 30 or net 60, right? And if you're having an instant reward, right, you're already giving up, if you're paying even 2-3 cents, that's in Europe, that's 6 to 7 rewarded like views, at least 10 interstitials, right? Yeah. How do you deal with the arbitration issue?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not going to be able to give you a super detailed answer myself, but what I will say is, like, so far what we've seen is developers have, like, the reward is small enough because we can go. I'm trying to screw it. I'll go a bit more complicated on Bitcoin. I try to avoid doing this, but
no, go for it. Yeah, go.
Bitcoin is there's no such thing as one Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually made up of 100 million units called Satoshis. Trust the nerds, right? But think of them as Bitcoin pennies. One Satoshi is 1/1000th of a cent. So it's a tiny amount of money. So we encourage developers to start with trivial money, like give the player 1 Satoshi. 1 Satoshi is next to nothing. It's a rounding error, right? So then you're not really hitting your unit economics. At that stage, you've introduced the mechanic, and by the time you're getting to D14, D30, you can have really strong assurances that you've monetized the player. And at that point, you can scale the rewards. So it's not a direct answer to you, because I'm afraid I'm not in the weeds enough to understand how our more recent developers are thinking about it. But I get the gist of what you're saying, where like you don't have assurances of payment from the ad provider. What if you've given out all of those economics already, and like how do you assure that that's being paid? Well, the answer is you don't give everything out all at once. You need to know that the player is truly committed. And we do work on like a rewarded, like a journey to take the player on. So the more the user plays, the more you can also afford to give them, because their LTV has gone up so much.
Yeah.
I hope I'm sorry for
no. That's great, because
sense.
my good look feel is like you just breadcrumbs, and then eventually you will give the whole piece of the bread afterwards. From what you mentioned during the recording, it makes sense that it works more on the monetization, because it's also like smaller increments of revenue rather than just like $5, $10, $50, $100 of heavy IIP, right? So I can understand.
We had in conversations, and again, this is sort of hearsay and anecdotal, but just from like where we've done outreach to devs, we have spoken to devs who've got like, it is 90% IAP, 10% admon. And they've sort of said, well, what if I just gave all of the admon to the player and relied on the IAP revenue?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if my answer is like, if you're game, I'm game, because that like the rewards would be that much higher, I think the players would actually really engage. But no one has taken the risk of trying it yet.
Yeah, look, Ben, I'm with you on this. That's why I'm actually, building my own apps, because nobody's crazy enough to try my ideas. So I need to build my own so I can try them.
Yeah, we did do some internal apps. Like I mean, way back, because it's not worth our time now. But at the very beginning, we did actually launch a few Unity games like ourselves. This was mainly about validating App Store stuff, but also to look at see what we could see in user behavior just on our own UA efforts. And we now know, fortunately, because we've got enough proof points, we now no longer need to do that. But I mean, maybe I do encourage our R&D lab to start to build an IAP game and give away all the admon. I don't know.
No, we had Bogdan from Holywater on our podcast recently, and he also said, like, look, we have one app which is purely experimentational, and we just test things there. And it makes a lot of sense. But coming back to my questions, instead of the ad monetization versus IIPs, does it work better in terms of the forever games that you mentioned, or new titles, or does like size of the game matter as well?
We're scaling up the size of the game we integrate with at present. So we're now reaching games where like they have meaningful user bases, talking tens of millions of MAU. They're still seeing the same performance uplift, and they're seeing it consistently. So that we're getting that, hence our growing confidence that this is actually a truly scalable solution. We haven't yet gone for a forever game, and I'll be very like, our strategy is not to introduce rewards and loyalty to the forever games. We're coming with something quite a bit more full money lifecycle, that sort of piece I was speaking to earlier.
Yeah. New games, like I would say. I know, like the legacy titles and like forever games are built like centuries ago, and it's not really ready for tech stack in 2026. I can imagine.
Yeah, we'll
maybe.
We'll find out. I mean, the funny thing is that a lot of money movement is actually a cloud-based operation. So your game is on your PC, and now we're sort of speaking to forever games and AAA. Like your game's on your PC, but it's talking to a server all the time. So a lot of the tech integration is actually not as hard as we initially thought when we got going. Most of it can be server side, and when it's server side, you can provide very strong security guarantees. So sort of stay tuned on that front. I don't mean to constantly like tease. I don't like to just BS. I'd rather we prove the products out. But you're going to see some more serious products that look at that kind of end of the market by Q3.
Tell you what, Ben, I'll send you Satoshi if you tell us one of the products right now.
Yeah.
It's just a small fractional one for our listeners.
I'm a little bit more expensive than that to still.
Machi can send you one too.
What I will say is, and I don't know if this will resonate with the games industry, is because this is very much fintech speak, but we are an embedded finance provider. So the rewards are embedded in the game. We can embed a lot more than just rewards into games. We can embed payments into games. So go back to, I mentioned the first thing the company did was it modded Counter-Strike, where players dropped coins, and when you picked up the coins, you got sent real money to your bank account. These experiences can now be scaled and embedded in games. So like there can be money truly in games and money movement through games.
Okay. In terms of the tech stack you mentioned, is it really easy to implement like anything from your side into the games? Because I mean, A, tech, I guess. B, you need to kind of think about like how to implement the rewards from the game design perspective, because you mentioned, I mean, obviously you don't want to screw up the economy of the game, right? So like how does the like companies think about this?
We would, selfishly as a business, we would love to make everything plug and play and be like, hey,
Yeah, obviously.
hook it up and it just makes you money. But that's not
Easy.
reality. Yeah, and
No, no, of course.
particularly not when you're embedding into a game. So there is always a necessary component of a game design discussion, but we defer to the studio. What we provide is like consultation on what is and isn't possible. So maybe a studio does, a very common one is like, I'll reward the player for completing every level. Like each level, they make more and more money. Well,
Sure.
that immediately hits the cash for tasks thing we spoke about. So we kind of say, oh, hold up, walk away from that. But there are other elements, like we have made efforts to make it easier to integrate over the last 3 years. So it is now all wrapped up in a Unity SDK. And I think the SDK is only like 2 megabytes or something. So it's not very heavy. And from there, we control all of the like payout experience to make sure that is as smooth as possible. What the developer has to call is they effectively have a couple of sort of calls to the API, which is send reward and get gamer tag. Gamer tag is the user's name and how we send them. So it is relatively simple, and I know every provider says this. The record we've had for an integration is a couple of days, but realistically, when we work with devs, we care that it is successful. The whole objective is to improve the monetization. We are much more collaborative, and I would say expect sort of like a 2 to 3 week onboarding, then maybe like a month of actually integrating and testing, and then maybe a month of actually live in market testing where you're looking at different regions, etc.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously you can implement, but then there's a lot of other stuff that you need to test. Thing. It's just never as easy.
We're also increasingly encouraging and providing guidance around like UA creative. We're seeing some early evidence that like if you signal that the game pays you as part of the user acquisition, that actually drives a better cohort. I think it's early days, so I don't actually have the data to hand to share, but we're starting to see signals of that, and we're working with devs on those strategies because we're noticing some cohorts perform better than others on different kinds of creative.
I mean,
no Wi-Fi, earn money ads.
Yeah. No Wi-Fi, earn money, no ads. Okay. No, I mean, it makes sense because the messaging then sets the expectation for the players. It's different kind of audience, and then you get basically the audience that wants to play and earn, obviously. But it's actually quite like a gray zone and slippery slope, because as soon as you start showing some kind of payment or rewards in terms of the cash, it's becoming more skewed towards like real money gaming and social casino, and then it's like regulatory issues. So it's a lot of other funds. Yeah,
you took the words out of my mouth. Like I was going to say that exact point. So just so you know, like from a regulatory perspective, because we're fully licensed both in the EU and the US, if it is a social casino game, that's actually not a problem for us. It's more like, do you want to do that?
Yeah.
But the best performing titles manage to walk that fine line of these rewards are worth real money, but this isn't a real money game. And one of the things we actually launched in Q4 last year, is brand new, so there's limited examples in market, was the game currency can carry real value. So it no longer has to be Bitcoin. You can reward users in gems or bananas or whatever it is. And when the user goes to withdraw, they find out it's worth real money and it goes to their bank account. And that came from developer feedback. They wanted to do that, to basically make their in-game currency carry a real reward value. And our licensing lets us do it. But what we also see is it makes the differentiation from real money gaming be clearer, because it's just like, collect points, cash out your points. And that sort of resonates with a different kind of user than your real money user.
So you're regulated, right? That sounds great. What's the negatives about being regulated?
It's expensive.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we don't show this to the game developers. We focus on making it easy, but every single withdrawal costs us money because we're running an AML KYC background check. We're making sure like we're not accidentally sending money to a sanctioned country. There's actually an actual ton of stuff that goes on in the background. We have a large, so basically you have to build a compliant, practically speaking, you want to get regulated, you've got to build a compliance team, you've got to have risk procedures internally. It's all very administrative, from a games industry perspective, it's all very administrative, and it's work that people don't want to do. It's work that we say we will willingly do to provide you with these services. So that's kind of what it means. But it ultimately, and why it's off-putting for people and why the other like web store and payment providers don't do this is it's extremely expensive.
Okay, I mean, it's called business for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
I think it was. I mean, we've raised 50 million to date, and I would probably think that somewhere in the realm of like 18 to 20 million of that has gone into like setting up regulated infrastructure.
Yeah, no, but now the infrastructure is there, ready for scaling. Oh, that's there. Like, what's next for ZBD that you can share for like 2026? I know your products are coming out. You teased a little bit, but give us a little bit more. Give us a little bit more.
I'm going to be opaque on Q3, Q4. I'm willing to be transparent on the next sort of 6 months.
Perfect.
We've got Pocket Gamer coming up. The biggest thing we're rolling out is payout to bank account. So you no longer need like I was alluding to, you can link your Revolut, you can link your Chase account in the US, you can link your Venmo, you can link your bank account to the game, and then you can be paid directly to your bank account. That is the benefit of being regulated. We're allowed to do that. We can connect banks up to games, and we can move that money on behalf of the developer. So that's the near-term feature coming. So we'll effectively see us evolve the earn product, loyalty and rewards, into a straight-up payouts product if you want it to be. So if you're a studio, and I'm not in conversation with them, so I'm just calling them out because I'd like them to hit me up. But if you're like Hype in Finland and you're doing all this UGC stuff where you can monetize, blah, blah, you need to pay the players. This is a payout solution, right? So you can actually now do that. But we anticipate the main use case will actually be the continued growth of this embedded reward product we have, where we're giving developers more optionality. You don't have to make Bitcoin games anymore. You can make games with points that are worth euros, and you can send to European bank accounts, or you can do the same in dollars. We're really basically expanding the optionality, because what we're seeing is that the more we make it easy to communicate to the player that, hey, you already have Revolut, so why don't you just pay to it? That's a very, very simple thing to explain to a player, and we're happy to enable it because we think it will drive good results. In Q2, you'll probably see us take that payout mechanic into, well, what if you could instantly buy a coffee in the real world? Like, what if I'm in the UK, right? What if you're playing a game in the queue at Pret, and then you can pay for your Pret using the money you just made in the game?
Yeah.
So this is sort of making it really real for the person who's playing the game, that you're getting money, and this money actually is coming out of a digital world and it's working in the real world. There's the way back slogan for ZBD is powering real economies in virtual worlds, and that's how if we go like GigaVision and Simon comes out in his lab coat and explains what he sees, it's like it is to blur the line between game economies and the real.
Okay, I mean that was powerful. I need to correct you on one thing. The most important thing at PGC is that the Game of Thrones a party we have together.
Oh, yes, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, I mean, oh my God, am I looking forward to it? So we were stunned last year by how well attended it was. Like, we didn't realize that everyone in the games industry actually is an amateur singer, and it was actually so busy. So I'm, not to plug myself, but I'm in a band with some friends. I fancy myself as a singer.
Ooh, very good.
I threw my name in the ring to get up there and do a Tears for Fears song. And it was so popular, I didn't get to do it. Or I may have been too inebriated to get up there and do it. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, this year I'm aiming to do a heartfelt rendition of Houdini by Dua Lipa.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah, we're definitely looking forward, man. So, but back to the podcast, and I mean, everybody from the audience and from the industry is actually invited. So please join us on Tuesday night. Who should kind of get in touch with you guys and with you after like listening to this episode? Like, is it small developers? Is it, I don't know, like which genre, or like we will just put your contact information in the show notes and then can just reach out whoever wants to.
I mean, we work with all scales of developers.
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend we're like a big fuzzy pink love bomb, but like, all developers are welcome. Larger developers will obviously receive more attention given the amount of money at play.
Yeah.
Just to be honest.
Completely honest.
But
exactly.
we're at a scale where we've now seen games scale, and we've worked with publishers to see scaled games on the platform, and we can see that, okay, it's holding up and the performance is consistent. So what I would say is, if you are a developer and you're looking at the monetization of your player base, if it's on an old game and you feel you can get more life out of it, then this is an excellent new thing to introduce as a way of re-engaging players and making new cohorts more interesting. If you're just getting started out, it can give you an edge. And that's where we've actually seen startups in particular the happiest working with us, because we also provide pretty powerful incentives around scale. They basically, we offer a partner incentive program where as you scale, we scale, and therefore we're willing to help you scale. And those incentives can get pretty chunky, to be honest. Like, they're conversations I'm going to be having at PGC, but it is a way of making the ROAS more effective, on whatever UA you're spending. And that's on top of the effect of the rewards. But the main message I'm keen to get across is that, like, we were quite rightly welcomed with a lot of skepticism when we came to market with a Bitcoin rewards product in the middle of the Web3 junk. If you ever get to know me, you'll know that I have a very negative opinion on crypto. Bitcoin is different. But when I would say that now we're a 6-year-old company, we've had the product in market for 3.5 years. At this point, our case studies are starting to speak for themselves. Like, this is actually working. And in a difficult environment where CPIs are high and driving LTV is a challenge, like, this is a solution that should be taken seriously. And we are very, very happy to help. Like, we partner with developers we work with, and we truly partner. We continue the relationship through the life cycle of the game, through the launch of the title. We continue to evaluate, is it working? If performance is lagging, do we know why that is? Can we dive into it with you? We share the data we see. You can see, you can share the data with us, and we really make it a collaborative thing, because we have a very good view on where the money is moving, what kind of behavior is driving that movement, and then you're obviously the game designer, you see your gameplay, and so you can often figure out some very clever ways to extend that player life cycle, really into the kind of 1-year retention. And I think that's pretty unheard of in casual gaming, but we're seeing it, and we've seen it now for several years.
That's amazing, because obviously skepticism is everywhere, and if you have a new product which is also very controversial, everybody's gonna be like, ugh, whatever. But obviously, but as we talk, it's small world. We see also the case studies from the like Paul and Tab Nation and other gaming studios, and it's insane. Honestly, it's really good. So I think great job, guys.
Thank you. Hopefully we're continuing to help the industry. I care about seeing growth, and I mainly care about seeing the games industry empowered to actually own more of its levers for growth. And I feel one of the biggest ones that we can offer the games industry is financial relationships with the players. That is something that the games industry hasn't had since the coin-op machine, where you paid money in. So like now we can actually give the industry a means of growing without having to depend on another platform.
And with that in mind, thank you very much, Ben, for coming, sharing all the knowledge and basically guiding us through the ZBD earn and everything that you've done. Dear listeners, thank you very much also for listening. Hopefully we see you at PGC. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments or reach out to Ben directly. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Guys.
Bye.